Welcome back, and we are winding down for this week in this unit on how we get energy and also how we basically grow. So let's see where we're at here. And what do I have as a picture of a cow and a calf? And if we were to look at that at the microscopic level, we know that cows and calves are going to be getting their energy or their food from different places. We know the calf is going to nurse from the female and is going to obtain the food that way. And that would be something at the macroscopic level that we're looking at. And then we know that at the microscopic level, we are going to be looking at how food can get into a cow's blood. So that's something a little bit more detailed than what you would see at that macroscopic level. And then we're going to look at today how molecules can change as it enters into the cow. So far, we've learned about cellular respiration over here. We learned how that glucose, which is so important, that is taken in, that glucose is combined with oxygen, and we learned that that's what's providing us with energy. And we know that we give off CO2 when we do this process, and we also give off some water as well, H2O. So cellular respiration is a huge process, is important for providing us with energy. We get that glucose from the digestion of all those nutrients that we take in. So we can break those nutrients down and we can get that glucose, which is going to be fed into that cellular respiration. But what about other things that could happen with the food that we digest? Well, before we get into that, let's make sure we understand what's going on in something like the cow here. In the lung, we know that we're taking in O2. In the stomach here, we know that we're going to start to break down food. And in those intestines is where we're going to start to see those large organic molecules, those LOMs you're going to see today, are going to start to be broken down into small organic molecules, SOM. And those are going to be then absorbed into that bloodstream. And that's what's going to happen in there, in that situation there. You get those small molecules that can get into the blood and glucose and things like that. And then in that leg muscle there, we know that that cellular respiration is what process is going to take place, which is going to provide that cow with energy to move. Same thing with us in terms of how we get around and what we need to do as well. So there's that cellular respiration that's going on there. And we have a heart, obviously, up here that is going to be used to pump blood around and to ship everything around. So that's, again, important to get our oxygen and our food and glucose, I would say, moving throughout our body. Okay, and remember that small organic molecule is that glucose in terms of what we're trying to get into the blood from our food that we eat. So what we have here is what happens to carbon atoms and chemical energy during digestion. We can see a large organic molecule here, and we have some water molecules as well. So we can see our water here. And then we can see our large organic molecule made up of, it looks like what we have here is some carbon. We can see that. We can see our oxygen here. We also have some nitrogen in this molecule, and obviously we have some hydrogen atoms as well. And we can also see these high energy bonds that are important for us to understand too. So during digestion, what's going to happen to that molecule? Well, as we can see here, that molecule is going to sort of be digested by enzymes and things like that, and we're going to get our small organic molecules. But notice that we still have our high energy and we still have our atoms here, but we do have that combination of things that have gone into this breaking apart of that large molecule, and now we have the smaller things that can be absorbed. So these are important because these can go into the blood. So these molecules can be absorbed into the blood. What happens to carbon atoms and chemical energy in this? If we kind of like blank out the colors of the atoms and focus really on the energy here, we know that we have chemical energy in these large molecules. And then when they're digested, does that chemical energy go away? Well, let's see. So we go through that chemical change, the molecules are changing, but we still have our chemical energy over here in these things. We have not done anything to the molecules in terms of breaking any bonds, in terms of getting energy out of them just yet. So far, what we're going to do then is we're going to look at what is called biosynthesis, and that's the process in which we're going to start building some things. That's an important process, and what allows that calf really to turn into that full-grown cow is that biosynthesis that's there. So biosynthesis is the materials for growth, and where do those materials come from? Well, they come from digestion, and you can see here that's another pathway besides the energy pathway of cellular respiration. So when we take in food, you have one of two choices. So what happens to chemical atoms and chemical energy in biosynthesis? If we have some fatty acids and glycerol here, some things that have been already absorbed, remember, these have been absorbed in the bloodstream. So these molecules would be in the blood already and have already gone through digestion. So if we watch what happens to these these molecules, what our body can do is it can actually chemically change these things and actually turn them into a larger organic molecule, and that would be something that is called fat. And notice that water is given off in this case when we do that. Now, there's a fancy term for this. It's called dehydration synthesis, but really we're going to stick with what you just saw there. This is different than digestion. This is biosynthesis. And this is something where you would get that stored fat in your body or something to that effect. Or not always do we use fat for storage, but sometimes we use it for insulation purposes and also for protection. So we can insulate with fat, and we can also protect certain organs with it as well. And then if you're a hibernating creature, you have to put on fat like a bear would in the wintertime, and that biosynthesis would occur from any food that it digested. Remember, fatty acids that were digested and turning into fat through biosynthesis. So what happens to the chemical energy when we do this? And you can see our chemical energy bonds. What do you think? Are they going to go away when we change this fatty acids and glycerol into fat? Let's take a look. And we can see here that even though we're going through a chemical change, it doesn't really alter the fact that those bonds go away. They stay the same, and we get chemical energy on this side as well. How do animal cells use glucose? That's important to understand. The diets of most animals, including mealworms, cows, humans, include lots of carbohydrates, which include starch and fiber and sugar. Those are all good sources of glucose. All those things can be broken down and form into glucose if you have the ability to do that. We can't break down fiber, but we can take starch and we can take sugar, and we can break those things down into glucose. That means that glucose travels to cells in the blood, and that we can get through digestion. But animal cells don't make starch or cellulose, so we don't necessarily make that from that stuff there. Now, plants, we could get into that, and that's where that starch can come from. The starch is actually a plant material, which is a source of food for us. So how do they use glucose? So how do animals use glucose? In two ways we do. Animals can combine glucose with oxygen to release chemical energy in cellular respiration. We've already learned that. This is how all cells get the energy they need for functions. Animals can make fat molecules from glucose molecules. We know that if we eat a lot of sugar and we take in a lot of glucose, we can actually make fat from that. It has the same atoms as what's in the glucose molecule. And that would be your, not cellular respiration, but again, this would be your biosynthesis pathway in case you wanted to put or make something out of the molecules that are in your blood. Remember your nutrition labels. Fats are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. And animal cells are made of mostly water, but they also have the large organic molecules, which are less than 40%, your fat, your protein, and some other sources of organic molecules, including DNA. And then there's a small amount of minerals as well. Chemical energy is stored in CC and CH bonds. Does water have chemical energy? I think we understand that. No, there's no energy in that because that's H2O, and you don't have those bonds in that molecule. That does not qualify for having CC and CH bonds. What about air? You should know the answer to that one. No, because again, O2, again, you don't see any of those bonds there. Does food have chemical energy? Well, you should say yes, because you know you have your different nutrients, and all those are going to contain that CC and CH bonds. Go ahead and complete the form for today, and then we'll finish up with how we grow and how this biosynthesis is used in our bodies and so forth. And then we'll move into a few different animals for Friday to examine, just to look at some different animals and compare them and how biosynthesis and cellular respiration work. And then we'll be finished for the week. So have a great day, and good luck with today's form. Thank you.